Madness rules the day in college football, so let's just start with it right off the top. Lane Kiffin should call Bryce Underwood.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all so much for helping make that the case. Jackson Arnold has a perfect fit waiting for him out there. But where is it exactly? Tennessee's got a new defensive coordinator. It's a really good hire. And Army-Navy. You didn't think I would go a week without talking about Army-Navy, did you? Absolutely not. This episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long. So, all the madness at Michigan. I'll talk about a couple other potential coaching candidates as well. But frankly, the biggest name on my mind with regards to the Wolverines program is Bryce Underwood. Now, he was originally committed to LSU. There was a big NIL offer that came down that, according to On3, doesn't have a buyout clause or anything like that. But I'm not even concerned with the financial aspect of it because we know that LSU is all in on winning. Why shouldn't Lane Kiffin try to call Bryce Underwood and get him down to Baton Rouge? There is not a single good reason that I can think of. This guy has the talent to be the number one pick in the NFL draft one day. And Lane Kiffin just took a guy from Division II Ferris State and had him leading an explosive offense that's just good across the board and led Ole Miss to its best season in program history. That pairing would absolutely work out. Now, if you've watched the 5-star documentary on Paramount Plus, which is very well done, might I add, Bryce Underwood is one of the athletes that is featured on there, along with a couple of other 5-star recruits, as you might be able to guess. He said in there that he has dreamed about being a Michigan Wolverine for a very long time, and originally committed to LSU, but then when the opportunity came about, he had to make it happen. He's always wanted to be at Michigan. But man, that situation is a complete and utter mess. Complete and utter mess. And look, they're going to hire somebody, and maybe that somebody will have at the top of his mind, how do I keep Bryce Underwood as the quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines? But that transfer portal opens on January 2nd. And Bryce Underwood's got a year of starting experience. He could go to a place where you know you're going to have a bunch of talent around you. You're going to have a great offensive staff, a proven head coach, and play caller that can put you in a great situation to succeed. I think the only hurdle Lane Kiffin would have to get over is getting Bryce Underwood to leave Michigan. Not the situation. I think selling him on, hey, there's a little bit of chaos up there. I don't think anybody needs to tell Bryce Underwood that. But selling him on leaving Michigan specifically could be really difficult. But LSU is all in. And this would be the sort of all-in, splashy move that isn't just for the effect. The actual pairing of Lane Kiffin and Bryce Underwood would make LSU a playoff favorite next year. The roster, I think they're going to be able to put together when that portal opens on January 2nd and what they already have in Baton Rouge. I mean, they've already got a bunch of talent on the roster. And by the way, LSU has a bowl game to play. I don't remember if they're playing in it because everybody seems to be opting out of bowl games nowadays. Not relevant to the conversation at hand. Similar to what I've talked about with Tosh Lupoi at Cal, Lane Kiffin is not walking into a complete and utter disaster. He's walking into a place that has been underperforming with serious talent on the field. It's just not being coached and coordinated correctly. I think there's an element of this to John Sumrall going to Florida. Billy Napier, who's the head coach at James Madison starting in 2026, by the way, wasn't able to maximize the talent he had on the field, but the talent is there. So if you took Bryce Underwood and you matched him with Lane Kiffin, I don't know how that wouldn't work out. I think it'd be a great thing for LSU. There are other options. I talked about Sam Levitt on yesterday's show. I think that could be a fit for LSU at quarterback. But Bryce Underwood, if you can convince him that Michigan's not the right place to be, and depending on who they hire, it probably isn't, given the current circumstances, yeah, LSU is the number one place that I'd keep an eye on. But as I'm recording this show, he has not entered the transfer portal. Just something to keep an eye on there. A couple of names to keep an eye on as well. Jedd Fisch at Washington. I was told a couple weeks ago that an extension was presented to Jedd Fisch and that he was going to sign it and there was going to be an announcement, and then that didn't happen. That was about 10 days ago. Jedd Fisch has been all over the place as a coach and a coordinator, play caller, non-play caller, quarterbacks coach, including Michigan, by the way. Would he view the current situation in Ann Arbor as a better one than what he has in Seattle? I wouldn't if I were him, but he might. He had a good situation at Arizona. He left it for a worse situation at Washington, which was starting over with almost an entirely new roster. They'd lost 22 starters to the NFL draft or graduation from the team that went to the national championship. He had a 10-win team at Arizona. If he had stayed down there, the 2024 Arizona Wildcats would have beaten, I believe, the 2024 Washington Huskies that he wound up coaching last season to a 6-7 record. Well, they're 8-4. They're going to play in the last ever LA Bowl against Boise State. I think they'll win that game, be 9-4. And guess what? His track record as a head coach is very good because Washington was starting over and he's gotten them back to the point. It's not where they'd like it to be, but it was off to a fine start in his first year. And he's taken a step forward. And at Arizona, that's a program where it's tough to win. And by his third year, they'd won 10 games. He won 1 game in his first year. And then he won 5, and then he won 10. So could he build it back? Yeah. And you could argue he's got that sort of track record. And hey, if you can do it at Arizona, if you can do it at Washington, you can do it at Michigan. Again, I wouldn't leave personally because I think you have what you need to win at Washington. But he might not feel that way. So Jedd Fisch, absolutely a name to keep an eye on out there. Others that I have seen floated or suggested. Manny Diaz at Duke. Not the worst idea. Doesn't feel like the best possible hire. Duke won the ACC this year kind of by accident. They're a 5-loss team. But only 2 of their losses were in the ACC, which is a greater indictment on ACC football this year than anything else. And has Manny Diaz done a good job? Yes. Would he potentially be able to bring, if you lost Bryce Underwood, a quarterback and Darian Mensah with him? Also yes. Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe Bryce Underwood would stay. Maybe Underwood would leave and Mensah wouldn't go. That's probably not your primary concern, though, if you're making that particular move. I think Manny Diaz would do fine. I wouldn't be wowed by the hire. Kalen DeBoer would be a wow hire. Jedd Fisch would be, oh, hey, that's quite the move for Michigan. The real wow hire that I would go and target if I were Michigan is Kenny Dillingham. And I don't know how you get him to leave Arizona State. He's an alum. He loves it there. I think there was interest in him for a couple of the jobs that got filled, and he said, nope, I want to stay here. So if you're able to somehow convince him, hey, this is the opportunity you want to leave Arizona State for, okay. Other names I've seen suggested, Tommy Rees. I don't know if now's the time to gamble. I don't believe Tommy Rees has been a head coach before. He's been a coordinator in college, obviously, a quarterback at Notre Dame, coordinator in the NFL. But he was a GA at Northwestern, quarterbacks coach at Notre Dame, OC at Notre Dame, OC at Alabama. He's been with the Browns the last couple of years. So is now the time to take a chance when you've got a cultural rebuild to undergo, where you're trying to put an entire scandal behind you? No, I don't think that's the right sort of move. The other name that just has to be brought up is Brian Kelly. And my response to that is it's not an immediate no. It's not never in a million years. Brian Kelly didn't have the level of success that he should have had at LSU. Does he feel like someone that would fit better at Michigan than at LSU? Yes, absolutely. It's not as if he didn't win at LSU. He won some. But if you're looking at him and saying, well, at least he'll give us something. At least he'll win some games. Are you making a transitional move? Is that really the right thing to do? I don't know. Maybe that's what Michigan feels the right course of action is. As crazy as it sounds, I don't think Brian Kelly's as crazy of a name. I would probably hire him before I hired Manny Diaz. I would hire Kenny Dillingham or Jed Fish before either one of them. Kenny Dillingham or Kalen DeBoer would be the home run, oh my goodness, how did you make that higher sort of move? I think Jed Fish is in the next tier, and everybody else is in a tier below. Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. Hit me up on Twitter at @lockdown_CFB or at @SMcLaughlinCFB. Speaking of fits, I've got the perfect idea for Jackson Arnold. First, this episode brought to you by Rugia. Let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life, it doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rugia Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rugia Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body, so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rugia Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. The science behind Rugia Ready stands out with those 3 clinically proven ingredients. And it's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to Rugia.com/LockedOnCollege. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Again, Rugia.com/LockedOnCollege, RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege, all caps, one word. Rugia Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. This episode brought to you by our friends also at FanDuel. NFL Sundays, they move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game. You're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And the college football playoff, any college football game. If you think bowl season is boring, and I'm not one of those people. I love college football bowl season. I will be throwing it on every single chance that I get, because that's just the kind of college football fan I am. If you think those games are uninteresting, but you want to spice them up, well, FanDuel's the perfect way to do just that. You got point spreads, money line, point totals, everything you could possibly want. FanDuel has you covered. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. So yesterday on the show, I discussed potential landing spots for Sam Leavitt. You can go check out that segment. Second segment on yesterday's show if you missed it. But I mentioned that I wanted to talk about Jackson Arnold as well, because he's leaving Auburn. That's no surprise, because you got a new administration coming in, and well, Jackson Arnold got benched this year, and yeah, that was the right decision, and he's now going to be on his 3rd team in 3 years when the 2026 season kicks off. Now, Arnold, a former 5-star recruit, who was one of the top quarterbacks of his high school cycle, has now been at 2 different places, and he has failed as a starting quarterback. You can blame him. You can blame the support system that he's had at those spots. You can blame both. And I think blaming both, frankly, is the right thing to do. There is one spot in particular. I'm going to name a couple of schools and tell you why they work. But there is one school in particular that makes all the sense in the world for Jackson Arnold. And that school is Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech with Brent Key and Buster Faulkner is the most ideal landing spot that Jackson Arnold could possibly come up with. What was the best game of Jackson Arnold's season? Probably the first game that he played. They went on the road to Baylor, who wasn't a great team, but would have been a bowl team if they'd been able to beat Auburn. They weren't. 38-24 was the final score. Jackson Arnold finished the game 11 of 17 for 108 yards. Nothing special. Not very good, as a matter of fact. Basically just threw a bunch of RPOs and easy passes, didn't push it down the field. You know why? They didn't have to. Auburn ran for 307 yards. And after that game, I remember saying, that's a great win and all, but I don't think that's going to get it done in the SEC. Not going to run for 300 yards on a lot of teams. Lo and behold, here we are. I was right. Jackson Arnold, in that game, made some big plays. He had 16 carries for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you have watched the Georgia Tech offense at all in the last couple of years, you know that the skill set between Haynes King and Jackson Arnold is very similar. I actually think Arnold, though he's not as refined of a passer as Haynes King, I think his arm is one that's more talented than King, who was also, by the way, a 5-star quarterback that did not work out at a previous school in the SEC. So that system that they run down there in Atlanta, and Buster Faulkner has not been hired to be a head coach anywhere, at least not yet. I don't think Brent Key will ever change it. Guy loves to run the ball. We know that. We know that's what Brent Key is all about. He has been for quite a while. I think Jackson Arnold would fit seamlessly. And look, he still has to develop as a passer. He can throw the ball. He just isn't a very good passer, isn't a very good quarterback. But here's the thing. In that offense, in the ACC, Georgia Tech just went 9-3. They're going to play BYU in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. And what the Yellow Jackets have done is made an offense that is very quarterback friendly and doesn't demand very much other than with his legs. Well, we know Jackson Arnold is a great runner. He is a big-bodied guy who's incredibly capable, and his best game this year is one where he ran for more yards than he threw for. Now, Haynes King had plenty of games this year in which he went for 300 through the air, and Arnold would need to refine that. But playing in that system is much easier because it's not a straight drop-back passing offense. Georgia Tech doesn't do that very often. They use fly sweeps and motions to create easy reads, simple passes, and the foundation of what they do is running the ball. I think this would be a legitimately good fit for so many reasons. And I can see it playing out now. If I'm Brent Key, I'd call Jackson Arnold and say, do you want to come be the starting quarterback for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets? Now, I'll go through a couple of other spots that I would consider if I were Jackson Arnold, who has all the potential in the world, but has to be in an incredibly well-supported environment. Georgia Tech's system supports him very well. Another school out there, Louisville. Different offense, requires more of Arnold as a straight passer, but Jeff Brom and his track record with quarterbacks is something I would want to be a part of if I were looking to develop. Now, I've said before, even though it wouldn't result in the most amount of playing time, I think Jackson Arnold should try to emulate Dante Moore, find a veteran to sit behind, somehow get another red shirt, and see if you can make yourself into a better quarterback by sitting and learning for an off season. For a guy who started 2 years in a row at major programs, I don't suspect he will want to do that because he's so late into his career at this point. But if you're going to go somewhere that isn't going to be a quarterback run-centric offense, then Louisville's a place that I would go to because Jeff Brom is the quarterback whisperer out east. He is Lincoln Riley, east of the Mississippi, stashed at Louisville. So that's an option I'd consider. Here's another one. And this again, I think would fit his skill set very well because not much is going to be required of him. I think Iowa could absolutely work. Now, I do not believe, I'm going to double check here, just to be sure. I do not believe Mark Gronowski has the ability to play another season of college football. He's played 5. He's played quite a bit in all of them. Again, the quarterback run, it's different than Georgia Tech, But Iowa wants to run the ball. They actually don't want to throw it a whole heck of a lot. They need you to make a couple throws a game. Well, Jackson Arnold can do that. But what he can't do, we know, is be in an air raid type system. We know he's not going to be able to develop in that regard. So I actually think Iowa is a better fit for him than Louisville, even though Jeff Brom's a much better quarterback coach than anyone who's ever held the title of quarterback coach or offensive coordinator for the Hawkeyes. But they want to run the ball a lot. There are games where they literally can't throw it because the weather's not very good, and they utilize the quarterback run game. I think Iowa would absolutely be a fit for Jackson Arnold. Two more that I will give you. Illinois. Illinois is a little bit more like Louisville in that there are times where the Illini have been very pass-centric under Luke Altmaier. I don't think that's how Brett Bielema wants to play. I think that's just how they happen to play this year in an 8-4 season that was disappointing. So this is a program, which is a compliment, by the way. Not kidding. You go 8-4 and it's seen as disappointment, especially to a place like Illinois, you've done a heck of a job, and Brett Bielema has. Now, the Illini are stylistically a bit more like Louisville than Georgia Tech or Iowa. But if he wanted to get back, he being Brett Bielema, to playing more smash mouth football, being more physical and having that identity, I think Arnold is an interesting guy to bring in, and incorporating the quarterback run more than you did with Luke Altmaier is something that I think would be available and appealing to a guy like that. Illinois' problem this year, they weren't physical enough. You know why they lost on the road against Wisconsin? They got out physical. Indiana pushed them around. Ohio State, far more physical. I think that bothers Brett Bielema and wants to reestablish that sort of toughness. Maybe they feel like Arnold would be the guy. And then here's another one. And this one could be fun. This one could be really, really fun. The Kansas Jayhawks use plenty of quarterback run in their offensive schemes. Jalen Daniels is finally out of eligibility after a fantastic career. Would Lance Leipold take a chance on the one-time Auburn Tiger and Oklahoma Sooner? I think he might. I could see that sort of fit. So from a program caliber standpoint and a stylistic or scheme standpoint, I think to some degree those programs could all work for Jackson Arnold. Nothing would be more perfect than Georgia Tech. If this comes to happen, I'm going to be very excited for him because he will have found the perfect landing spot. Where do you think Jackson Arnold ends up? You let me know in the YouTube comments below. Tennessee's got a new defense coordinator. Army, Navy, all coming up next. First, this episode brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. And if you're worried that a digital picture frame is just going to be a screen, it's going to kill the aesthetic of the room, oh, it won't look good. I've seen these frames in person, and let me tell you, they look great. The photos are easy to see, they roll right along, and you get to enjoy a bunch of different pictures instead of just one. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, using the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com. Promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and the frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Check out auraframes.com. Army just did something that nobody had done before. Went to San Antonio and won a football game against the Roadrunners, on their home field. That's tough. That's a difficult thing to do. So Army is bowl eligible, and Navy has had a great year. Navy's 9-2. They've only lost this season in consecutive games, mind you, to North Texas and Notre Dame. Now, those teams have something in common. Their offenses, throwing the football, are very explosive. This may shock you, but Army is not a behemoth throwing the ball. They average 78 passing yards a game. I love the Army-Navy game. It's something that I think we all just watch and enjoy and appreciate every year. Should it have its own standalone weekend? If we were to make a perfect college football calendar, I think it would stand alone, but not as an entire week of college football. Like, there should be games this week. But somehow, Army-Navy needs to stand apart. I haven't put full thought into how we do that just yet, but I bring this back to the actual football game. According to our friends at FanDuel, and the Navy defense has not always been stellar this season, the over-under on this one, 38.5. It's the same sort of game every year. The players change. Sometimes the coaches change. But the way that this game looks never changes. And you know what? As somebody who doesn't always want things to change just for the heck of it, I appreciate that about this game. The honor, the respect, the pride, the patriotism, it's all there. It is a wonderful, wonderful spectacle. You've got everybody in their military outfits. It's great. It's great. The uniforms, always really good. I love everything that this game stands for. So, Navy's favored, according to our friends at FanDuel, by 6.5 points. Now, Blake Horvath is, I believe, expected to play in this particular game, and Horvath has just been awesome. Absolutely awesome this season. And I think that by the way, do you know that Blake Horvath has a 300-yard passing game this year? Do you know the last time it happened? In the other Service Academy game that Navy played. Back on October 4th against Air Force, went for 339 and 3 touchdowns. I didn't even know that was possible, but with Blake Horvath, it is. Now, of course, the team that runs for more yards in this game is going to win. Horvath actually hasn't gained 100 yards in a game himself since November 1st against North Texas, a game that Navy, of course, lost. Navy's been the better football team this year. But I just wonder, Army's won a couple in a row. You got everything to play for in this game because this is all the game, or excuse me, they've won 3 of 4, and they only lost by a point to Tulsa in the game that they actually lost. So, are you going to come into this game and see it as, well, that's all we've got to play for? There's nothing else. Both these teams are going to go to a bowl game, which still means something to both of these programs. But the beautiful thing about this game is you already know the answer to the hypothetical I just posed. This is the game. There are no larger ramifications. There's no college football play, nothing. It's just Army-Navy, and these two teams that respect each other so much, man, they want to win. Man, they want to win so very badly. Now, my general rule of thumb, which hasn't always come to fruition, of course, has been take the points in a rivalry game. And you know what? In a low-scoring game like this one, I'm going to do just that. Because Army has started to play some seriously good football. I'm tempted, very tempted. It's amazing how much of a mirror image these two teams are statistically. Army rushes for 257 per game. They allow 147 per game on the ground. Navy, meanwhile, runs for 298 a game and allows 143 per game on the ground. The explosive runs, not just the ground game in general, the explosive runs, I think, are going to define this one. Can Blake Horvath get loose? Or can the cadets keep him contained? Because if you get him into the second level, he will go. He will go. This is not about which quarterback can find more of a rhythm. I think that Navy wins the game, but I think it is hard fought. I think it is really, really tough. I think this game is always that way. It has the same sort of feel. It's going to be cold, physical, triple option, 24-21. 24-21, give me Navy to squeak out a win over Army in America's game. By the way, pivoting a little bit to wrap today's show, the coordinator carousel continues to move about. I talked about this earlier in the week because there's a great hire made at Nebraska. They brought in Rob Aurick from San Diego State to be their defensive coordinator. Deion Sanders at Colorado brought in Brendan Marion to be the Buffs' offensive coordinator. I loved both of those moves. This might be my new number one hire of this coordinator cycle. I still might lean Brennan Marion, but man, Jim Knowles going to Tennessee. Jim Knowles going to Tennessee. He was not retained by Matt Campbell. Once he got to Happy Valley, he's going to have his own staff. Can certainly understand and appreciate that. It's wild that a guy that won a national championship in 2024 is on his third team in 3 years. I don't think that's happened very often. But Tennessee has found their way into having the sort of success in the coaching carousel that they needed to. Because if you watch Tennessee this year, there were two consistent themes. Number one, their defense could not defend the pass very well. Jim Knowles, really good proven track record here. Number two, and I'm not taking the Penn State season, which, by the way, almost resulted in a win against Indiana. Don't forget. I'm not putting too much into what happened this year, although there were plenty of good results on the defensive side of the ball. You go back to that game against Oregon that sent Penn State into a tailspin. Defense was not the problem for Penn State whatsoever. Does Tennessee need to up their personnel? Maybe in a couple spots. They're going to lose, and they haven't had McCoy in the back end of the defense for most of the season. But do they have better personnel than what they put on the field this year? Yeah, absolutely they do. They do. And I think Jim Knowles is the sort of hire that shows Tennessee's committed the way that they should be. As Josh Heupel famously said, no one person is bigger than the power T. Well, the power T's now got a real defensive coordinator, and that change needed to happen because that was one theme this year. They couldn't stop teams, especially throwing the football. Number two, Joey Aguilar couldn't protect the football. But guess what? Between those two, I'd rate the defense as a bigger problem than Joey Aguilar. He did about what I expected him to. Tennessee did what I expected them to. My preseason record prediction for them, which I hit 58% of, by the way, on the over-unders, with the lines being provided by our friends at FanDuel, of course. I feel pretty good about that. I'm just going to ignore my in-season bets for now because, boy, that didn't go as planned. But before the year, I thought Tennessee would go 8-4. They went 8-4. And Joey Aguilar was very productive. But Joey Aguilar was also very turnover prone. And still, they could have beaten Georgia. They could have beaten Alabama. The defense couldn't stop anybody against Vanderbilt at home. That was the final straw. That was the game where you went, oh, okay, yeah, a change definitely needs to be made here. So the coaching and coordinator hires in the carousel that I've given out, I've only given a few A's. Brennan Marion was that. Rob Auer was that. Yeah, Jim Knowles is an A hire for Tennessee. Coordinator or coaches, those are the three best hires that I have seen get made this offseason. And I'm a John Summerall fan. I like Alex Golesh at Auburn. But Jim Knowles going to Tennessee, really good move for the Vols. We'll see what they do come transfer portal time when they have a chance to get their personnel back to where it's capable of being. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.